بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد عليه وعلى آله أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, and I send my peace and blessings upon the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whomever Allah guides, none can misguide. Whomever is allowed to go astray due to their own wrongful actions and sinful desires and inclinations, none can guide back except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's given us a beautiful book, a beautiful constitution, a beautiful way of life, and that is the way of life that is mentioned in the Quran. And it's again very humbling to be sitting amongst you and to be discussing these beautiful words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to this ummah. Words that sound beautiful, words that are easy to understand, words that are easy to recite, words that are easy to memorize, and words that, I want you to imagine that Allah gave us a constitution, a book of law, that not only do we memorize, but we also recite beautifully. Have you ever seen someone that recites their law or their constitution in a beautiful way? Usually it's someone who is basically very equipped with legal jargon and they know all of these big words that most of us won't understand. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Quran easy. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah has made it easy to recite, made it easy to remember, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it also beautiful in tone, beautiful in recitation. So that's a beautiful ni'mah that we should be very grateful for and should be happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this ummah for this beautiful gift. The other thing that I want you to remember, my brother, my sister, is when we are discussing the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we're studying the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the best of the angels. And they are amongst us listening, and they're amongst us recording the names of those who are present sincerely for His sake. And those who are present sincerely for His sake, Allah will elevate them, and Allah will give them, and Allah will reward them in ways that you cannot imagine. So my advice to myself, and firstmost to myself and to everybody who is present, let this be a reminder, inshallah, to renew our intentions, inshallah. Today, inshallah, we're going to look at a very beautiful story that is within the Quran, and a story that is important for all of us to analyze and to study and to reflect on. This is the story of Qarun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions at the very end of Surah Al-Qasas the story of Qarun. And the story of Qarun is beautiful because it's one of those stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in a complete section. Most of the stories in the Quran are scattered around the Quran. So in order to get the full picture, you have to basically read the beginning here, the middle here, a part of the end here, and then a part of the basically conclusion or concluding remarks in another surah. But the story of Qarun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala situated at the end of Surah Al-Qasas, easy for us to look at and easy for us to analyze. And inshallah what we'll do today is we'll recite it together, and we'll break down some of those lessons that we can learn, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, إن قارون كان من قوم موسى فبغى عليهم وآتيناه من الكنوز ما إن مفاتحه لتنوء بالعصبة أولي القوة إذ قال له قومه لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين قال إنما أوتيته على علم عندي أولم يعلم أن الله قد أهلك من قبله من القرون من هو أشد منه قوة وأكثر جمعا ولا يسأل عن ذنوبهم المجرمون. The first ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed Qarun was from the people of Musa. See, if you look at the translation, yes, it is sometimes, very sufficient. But there are lots of details that we need to understand. And that's the beauty of studying the tafsir and studying the background and the context. So what does it mean when we say that Qarun was from the people of Musa? Number one, it means that he was from Banu Israel. He was not an Egyptian, nor was he from the Hyksos. He was from the Israelites that was persecuted at the hands of Fir'aun and his followers. That's number one. Number two is that he was also from the people that were living amongst Musa. Meaning that they were not from the elite, they were not from the rich. He was a poor person. So if you look back into his history, he was a poor person. He was an Israelite. Okay? Qarun was from the people of Musa. And at the same time, the people of Musa were people that were generally, for the most part, religious. Religious. The people that were in his group. So this means three things that we gather from this one sentence. That he was poor, not from the elite. That he was from Banu Israel. And lastly, he had religious, again, friends, at least. And he used to attend the religious halaqat. He used to be in those religious study circles in which he sat down and learned and was reminded and remembered the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the teachings of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. But what happened? فَبَغَى عَلَيْهِمْ. Then he started behaving arrogantly towards them. Bagha means to transgress. He started transgressing towards them. What happened? What's the reason? What's the reason for the transgression? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْكُنُوزِ مَا إِنَّ مَفَاتِحَهُ لَتَنُوءُ بِالْعُصْبَةِ أُولِي الْقُوَّةِ. We gave him from the treasures, that which the keys to the chest where the treasures will be stored, the keys themselves were so heavy that it required a group of 70 plus men to carry, just the keys alone. So I want you to imagine that. Just let this sip in for a second. Let this settle in for a second. He was from the poor, he was from the religious, he was from the Israelites sitting and learning from and at the hands of Musa alayhi salam and at the hands of the religious people. But what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the ability. And everything that we achieve as human beings can be attributed back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your wealth, your success, your discoveries, your knowledge, everything that you have, everything that you are, everything that you've discovered, everything that you've gathered is from Allah first and foremost. Right? You don't do anything on your own. You can't. If you're able to extract it, you still use the hands that Allah created. If you're able to think about it, use the mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has equipped you with. You formulated it, all of it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. We talked about the farmer places the seed in a land that belongs to Allah, puts water that belongs to Allah, in a soil that belongs to Allah, using fertilizer that belongs to Allah, processes that belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether you photosynthesis, water cycle, all of those things coded and constructed and placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A sun, air, an environment that is placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all that the farmer does really is place the seed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does the work. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ. Are you the ones that really did the farming, or was it Allah that was responsible for this growth? So yes, we do some work, but that work is just effort. We as humans only put in effort. The real work is done by the divine. So we put in effort, and what's responsible, what's expected of us, and what we're responsible for is the effort. So let's look back at this. What happened? The story of Qarun is mentioned to us in our books and of tafsir and narrations. He found a way. The narrations will differ and say three things. He found a way to basically refine gold. And he built quite a large empire. And then he found people that were in need, people that were poor, they needed money. So what he would do is he would lend them the money and then charge very high interest rates. And he would ask people to place, secure deposits. So someone would put their house on the line in case that person is not able to pay the money back. And he would take that. So imagine the same people, and here's how he actually gained and collected that wealth. Because he was an Israelite, his own people said, hey, it's better to support one of our own, a local business, than to support one of the persecutors or one of the unjust people from Fir'aun's followers. So here's one of us, he's becoming a successful businessman, let's support him, let's help him. And that's how he became again, that support from the community. No businessman, no successful individual is ever going to again be born in a vacuum like that. There are people who support, bring that person to power, contribute, help that person maintain that power. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding him here through these ayat and reminding us that he was a poor person, but he succeeded because of the support from his community. And now he has this empire, he has this wealth. And now there are people from his community that are coming to him, begging him for money because they don't have. They're poor, and he's able to give them this money, but it's not giving them to empower them. It's not giving them for the sake of helping out and for the sake of distributing equally the wealth that Allah bestowed upon him. It's giving them with an intention and with, again, a motive here that is selfish. You're in a position where you're weak. I can exploit that and give you whatever you need, but I'm going to ask and I'm going to charge really high interest rates. So this is again one of those things that he did. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds him, وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْكُنُوزِ, that it's Allah who gave him from the treasures. So I want you to imagine this is someone who had all kinds of things, gold, silver, all kinds of treasures that you can imagine at that time. Cloth, silverware, housing, buildings, all of these things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave, and he was able to build such a large empire. Now what happened? The people that he used to hang out with, the people that are his religious friends, they saw this change in him. So they came to him and they advised him privately. And they told him, لا تفرح, لا تفرح. And tafrah is sometimes mistranslated as don't be happy. No, tafrah in this case is don't be proud. لا تفرح, don't be proud, don't be arrogant. For Allah does not like those who are arrogant. So don't be arrogant, because arrogance will alienate you from Allah's mercy. And it doesn't matter what you have in this world, if there's arrogance, and if you're alienated from Allah because of that, then you've lost everything. Remember that the very first sin that is committed, that we know of, is arrogance. When Allah commanded the angels, and at the head of the angels, Iblis, who was from the jinn, he commanded them all to prostrate. All of the angels prostrated, because they are beings that do as Allah wills, and they don't have the gift of choice. But Iblis said, no, I'm better. I'm not going to prostrate to this. I'm better. So the very first sin is the sin of arrogance. I am better than him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is reminding us that there were people that came to him and advised him from his own people. They said, hey, don't let this get to your head. Don't let this be the reason that you transgress. Don't let this be the reason that you become arrogant. For Allah does not like those who are arrogant. But look at the balance in the advice here. Because what happens when someone comes to advise us, we mentioned yesterday in the khutbah, that people who advise us, we will always look for 1,000 motives or 1,000 rationalizations or 1,000 reasons not to listen. So we will say, oh, this person is advising me because you know what? He wants my wealth. She wants my wealth. This person has hidden secondary motives. This person has a hidden secondary agenda. This person's life depends on him advising me. This person has turned advice into a business. This person. So we will try to come and rationalize, and sometimes those rationalizations are true and they apply for some, but they don't apply to everyone. So to prevent the message from being blocked due to those false presumptions and rationalizations, they advise here and they say, don't be from the arrogant, but we're not telling you to give up your wealth. No, because imagine poor people advising someone with wealth, don't let this wealth get to your head. What's that wealthy person going to say? Oh, they're just saying this because they want my wealth. They're just jealous. That's what people rationalize. But here Allah reminds us that in the words, in the advice, what did they say? They said, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ. Use whatever Allah has given you to not only achieve success in this world, but to achieve success in the hereafter. So Allah set you up for success. Allah gave you so many resources, so many reasons to be grateful. Don't let it be just success limited to this world. Let it be the reason that you succeed in this world, and be prepared to use whatever Allah has given you to succeed in the next. And that's a rule that applies to every part of our lives. If Allah gave you wealth, don't give it up. Use it to serve Him. Allah gave you health. Use it to serve Him. How can we use our health to serve? Go out, work, reach out, build, construct. Allah gave you time. Donate your time. Allah gave you patience. Teach. Allah gave you knowledge. Express it. Walk the talk. So those are ways that we can serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So use whatever resources Allah has given you. In this situation of Qarun, it's wealth. Use the wealth that Allah has given you to attain a better position with Him in the hereafter. Because this world is temporary. So if you succeed in a temporary, imagine winning a small little game versus winning the entire tournament. What do you want to do? You don't want to win just a small, leg or two. You want to win the entire tournament. And this world is only a small part of that tournament. Right? You want to be successful in the hereafter, so therefore you have to use whatever you've gained as an investment back with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tamam? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ. And at the same time, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. We're not telling you to forget about this world, and don't forget your portion of this world. وَأَحْسِن كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. And this is a golden rule in the Quran. وَأَحْسِن, and be good, كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. As Allah was good to you. Allah has been good to each and every one of us. And in return, we are expected to share that goodness with as many people around us as possible. وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and don't cause or spread or pursue injustice and corruption in the land. For Allah does not like those who are a source of corruption, a source of mischief in the land. Oftentimes when people become very wealthy, there are very little regulations left. Very little and few things to keep them in check. The law system, they can easily dodge that because they have enough money to hire great lawyers who will play with the wordings and the jargon and all of that to get them out of almost anything. Right? And that's why many times you'll see people with a lot of wealth collapse and break and become very arrogant people, uncontrolled. Whatever, they say outrageous things. One great example of that is just to the south of the border. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and allow us to never reach such a position, Ya Rab. So when he's giving this advice, how does he react? The innocent or the humble individual accepts the advice and looks for reasons to actually change his or her life around. But Qarun doesn't do that. Qarun doesn't take this advice to heart. Doesn't take it to heart. He's automatically on the defensive. And that's a sign of someone who is again so distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The minute you advise, there's always these defenses going up. Very defensive. So what does he say? إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. Look at all these I. He attributes it to himself. I have collected all of this wealth because of knowledge that I have collected. Can you imagine? Imagine this level of arrogance. You're telling me that I have to use my wealth to help people, that I have to invest in Allah? What does Allah have anything to do with this? What do good people have anything to do with this? This wealth is mine. I collected it using my skills. Don't you be coming down to me and try to get me to give up what I have worked so hard for. You know, you'll find people saying this, it's my work. It's my degree. It's my heart. It's my investment. It's my. But in reality, nothing really is yours. Whatever you have is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift to you. And if you look at life, there are so many factors and variables that play in how much you get and when you get it and how you are able to attain it. There's so many reasons and factors, right? There's so many, again, privileges, layers of privileges that certain people have, and circumstances, and chance. You know, some people are actually fortunate, and a result, that's from a human point of view, their wealth, their health, their knowledge, their position, their power is a result of chances and circumstances that were completely out of their hands. And few people are actually self-made and self-constructed, but in the end, even those people, they don't use anything that is truly theirs. It is all a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No human being has created himself. Every human being is a creation of the divine. So anything that you do with what Allah has given you is still Allah's and attributed to Allah in the beginning and in the end. And that's what we have to remember. So what does Allah say? Allah reminds him, does he not know that Allah destroyed many nations before him who were mightier and stronger and had more resources, more people, more strength and more power? وَلَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذُنُوبِهِمُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. And this is a beautiful ayah in the Quran. Just this rule here. Wallahi, this rule, if you just think about it, subhanallah, it's so applicable to the time that we're living in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this literally means the people that are wicked, the people that are basically the criminals, the people that are transgressors, will not be asked about their crimes or their sins. The people that are wicked will rarely be asked about their sins. This is translated only in one dimension. But this little section here applies in so many ways. How so? The people that commit so much injustice, corruption, and all of these, they spread mischief, very, very rarely will they be held accountable in this dunya. Why? Because no one is brave enough to stand up and to do something. People are afraid. I'm going to lose my wealth, I'm going to lose my money, I'm going to lose my prestige. Because people that are criminals, what are they known for? They're ruthless. They don't have a conscience that will basically guide them to making those moral decisions. They don't care. So if it comes to it, if you have to be eliminated in order for them to maintain their power and maintain the structure, they're going to go ahead and do that. So very few people have the skill the confidence and the bravery to bring the unjust to account while minimizing the damage that may cause. You understand? And this is very important. Very few people will speak up. That's in this dunya. And in the hereafter, the people that are really, really, again, sources of really terrible crimes, they will not even be asked about their sins on the day of resurrection. There will be people that will enter Jannah without an account. يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ أو بدون حساب. And there will be people that will enter hell, will be alienated from Allah to that level without any questions. Because those are the people that, again, were so distant from Allah that Allah does not even give them the opportunity to bring any evidence forward or to defend their position or to even speak out. Because they will have absolutely nothing to say. And it's by the consensus and the agreement of everybody that was living at their time and everybody that was a victim of their crime, that this individual is not even worth the conversation that will take place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happens? And here's where I would like to take a small little tangent to the story and focus on some of the really difficult things and horrendous things or the attitude that led Qarun to doing this. What happened, I want you to imagine, is Qarun is now very powerful. He's very rich. And he's getting all of this attention because of the things that he has. And a lot of people are, again, trying to, if you allow me to say this, trying to basically get on his good side because it's convenient and it's profitable and it's beneficial. So they're trying to get on his good side. And those are the people that don't really have a strong moral compass. They're people of convenience. But at the same time, Musa is coming forward and he's teaching the Israelites. He's teaching people about truth and honesty and integrity and ethics. And a lot of people are following Musa. So what does Qarun do? Qarun decides that he's going to destroy the reputation and the integrity of Musa. So he hires a prostitute and he pays her money. And he says, I want you to get up in the middle of one of Musa's sermons, and I want you to start spreading these rumors and lies about Musa, and saying that this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. I'm not saying that everyone that comes forward with an accusation towards someone is not founded, but many times there are people that are accused and they're innocent. And in this situation, Musa is a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's innocent and he's again accused, and Qarun has enough money to pay that individual to come forward and do such a thing. So I want you to imagine the way he's using his wealth. This gives you just a small little example of that. So this prostitute is in the middle of the khutbah or lecture or sermon that Musa is giving. And this sermon happens to be about wealth and wealth distribution. Meaning that this is the sermon in which charity just became prescribed upon Banu Israel. For example, in Islam, the pillars that we have, were not all prescribed in one day. Right? For example, you have certain things, you have the salah being prescribed, then you have the fasting being prescribed, and then the zakah is later, when the state is settled and when you have the capacity to spread and collect wealth. Right? So there are, again, alcohol was not banished right away. So this is a time in the Sharia of Banu Israel in which charity just became prescribed. So Musa is giving a talk about charity and distribution of wealth. Why is this problematic for Qarun? Qarun has built an empire and he's making money based on people not having enough money. Based on people being too poor, so poor that they have no choice but to take these loans at a really high interest rate. So now if charity becomes something that is prevalent and people are sharing their wealth for the sake of something much higher than they are, for the sake of Allah, this is going to completely undermine the structure that Qarun has built. So he is now being threatened where it matters to him most: money and power. So by hiring this prostitute, what happens is she speaks against Musa and she says, oh Musa, you're telling people to do this and this and this and that, but in reality you are a man who does not practice, does not preach what you say. And this causes a little bit of a stir. But Musa remains confident and believing in Allah. He raises his hand to Allah and he prays. Says, Ya Allah, if I'm on the right, allow for the truth to become manifest. And if I'm in the wrong, Allow for me to be rectified and for my situation to be rectified. Humility at its best. And very, very again concise. So what happens when he makes this dua? The prostitute who said this, she feels really guilty. She feels really guilty. And eventually comes forward and retracts what was said. And she mentions that Qarun paid her to do this, and that she really is now regretting that situation. And this is mentioned in Ibn Kathir and other tafasir as well. So what happens after that? Qarun is now threatened. His reputation is really diminished. So he needs to do something very quickly to regain that popularity and that attention. So what does he do? فَخَرَجَ عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. What does he do? He collects all of the good that he has. And he tells his nearest, the workers that are working with him, his advisors, I want you to dress me in the best of way, and to give me the best of, again, clothes, and to take all of the good that I have, all these treasures, and to showcase them, and to publicly put them out to the community. فَخَرَجَ عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. So he's going to walk out with all of this gold, all of this silver, in these big caravans, with these big horses that are dressed in these beautiful ways. So imagine this huge caravan is put forward to highlight and show what kind of things Qarun has been given. Can you imagine that? This is, just to make this a little bit practical to you guys, to make it a little bit more relatable. What's he doing here? What's he doing? What's Qarun doing by doing this? What's he doing? What's he trying to attempt? What is he trying to achieve? Showing off? What else? So he's showing off what he has, but why? Why is he showing it off?
To say he must be on the right path because he's blessed with all this wealth.
Right. So there's a sense of, God must be pleased with me because I have all of these things. Have you heard that before? Look what I have. So there's a sense that God must be pleased with me because I have all of this. Right? And if he wasn't, then he would take it away. So it's a challenge. Number two, it's an attempt to gain, again, popularity. And of course, three, it's a way to basically show how different he is. So the idea here is that he's trying to shift the rhetoric and say to the people, look, Musa's telling you to be selfless, to give, to live morally, to do all of these things. But look at what Musa has. He's got nothing. And his followers have nothing. And I am doing everything that Musa is not doing. And I'm doing everything that Musa is telling you not to do. But in reality, I have more. So there's a sense that success with Allah is somehow correlated to how much material things you have. And this is very similar to what happened in Egypt when Napoleon came from France. When Napoleon came to Egypt, when he landed in Alexandria, what he did is he brought with him an entourage. And read your history, it's amazing. He brought with him an entourage of historians, scientists, who brought some of the most developed weaponry and developed, again, inventions in France at that time. And what he did is he brought all of these exotic dancers and he put this big caravan through the streets of Alexandria that was supposed to instill this sense of inferiority in the Egyptians. To show, hey, you need us. You need us. We have all of these advanced technologies. We have all of these weapons. We have all of these great things. And you need us. And not only that, he brought with him this entourage of historiographers, right? Who were told and paid large sums to write history, the history of Egypt, and the history of the part of the world, in a way that paints the Egyptians as the Occident, right? As the inferiors, as the weak, as the uncultured, uncivilized, very, very primitive humans who need the advanced French military to be there to support them and to help them build their nation and build and attain a true democracy. Does it sound familiar to you guys? Happens all the time. It's the same tape repeated over and over again, right? And this would become the reason, or this propaganda would be what he would use in the Parliament of France to legitimize his presence in Egypt. Right? And there are so many addresses, and if you look into the history of it, so many of the things that he said. One of the things that that I find very interesting, Allah subhanahu I haven't looked into the authenticity of this, but everything else that I've mentioned is authentic according to my knowledge. But I've heard somewhere, you guys, the researchers among you can look it up and definitely, learn from the research itself. It is said that he said in the parliament that Muhammad is the prophet of the people in that region, and he is the prophet of those times. He's the new prophet of the times. And he brings with him that which is going to basically undo and really, really change and pave the way forward. And that is nationalism. So he looked at himself as a prophet, and he looked at his religion as nationalism. And he looked again as democracy, as the thing that he was going to empower those people with. Right? Just give you something to think about. And there was a sense of arrogance in Napoleon as well. This you can compare it to, and you can compare so many people to this attitude. So don't think this attitude is an old attitude. It's a non-existent attitude. If you look at how many of you have been to France, put your hand up. Put your hand up. MashaAllah. Okay. So we have a few people. Did you visit the place where Napoleon is buried? No. Did you? Okay. Look it up tonight. Napoleon is buried, and his grave is actually buried really, really, really deep into the ground. And when he left his will, he said, I want my grave to be buried very deep into the ground. And they asked him why. He said, because when I want people to visit, I want them to have to bend down to see me. So just like they bowed to me in my presence while I'm alive, I want them to still bow to me for years to come after my death. And just look it up, it's amazing, but it gives you a sense of the attitude. And what kind of attitude is it that puts someone at a very large distance from Allah? And why is it that the poorest of the people who have very little, are the ones that have the highest attachment, affinity, and are the ones that are closest in touch with Allah? Not because they're looking to replace and fill a void that is in their lives. No. In reality, because they are the ones that are so humble that they're still able to hold on to their humanity, their basic humanity. It's not a void that needs to be filled. Rather, it's a humanity that has been lost in those who've become too arrogant to notice, who have been reduced to the most primitive instincts and have not engaged in self-purification and have been so caught up in the world and its lures and materialism that they don't even stop to think, am I even human? And what changed? And how did I get to this? And how did I become this? Tamam? So what happens when he put this display forward? Those who desired the life of this world, those who desired this world, what did they say? They said, يَا لَيْتَ لَنَا مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ قَارُونَ إِنَّهُ لَذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. Oh, how we wish we have that which Qarun has. He is so lucky. So the people, when Qarun put his fortune on display, there were two main reactions. There were people who said, I wish I have that. Man, it would be so awesome if I drive that. If only I have that. I want you to imagine that. So they became so deluded by this world and they said, I want it, I want it. Right? And they said he's so lucky. And there were others. This is not just supposed to be scripture of a story that's ancient. No, we're supposed to relate this to the day and the modern days that we're living in. I want you to imagine someone who's driving a Ferrari down the street. Right? A convertible Ferrari, or a beautiful car, or a Lambo. And the windows are down, the music is loud, and he has his arm around his girlfriend, and he's making a statement. What comes to your heart when you see that? What comes to your mind? Man, I wish I had that. Wouldn't it be awesome to drive this one? So what comes to your mind? What kind of reaction do you have? Because Allah says, those who love this world, who desired this world, they said, hey, I wish I had that. If only I had something like Qarun. Man, he's so lucky. So do you think like that? And what does that mean about you? Because a Muslim does not shy from taking wealth, but a Muslim does not attach himself to that wealth. A Muslim looks at wealth as a resource. Yeah, I have all of these things, I have this and this and that, but I don't get excited when I get into it. I don't display it, I don't show it off. I look at it as a resource, I'm happy, I'm grateful, and I share it and I use it to invest. But the one who's not on the path of submission to Allah, what does that person say? That person says, oh man, look. So that person derives pleasure and defines himself and self-worth based on those things that he has. So anytime there's a bit of, a void, or that person feels, insecure, there's always that wealth that fills that. Right? And there's always that act of showing off. So think about that, and what does that mean about you, and how do you react to those things? The people who've been given knowledge, what did they say? The people who've been gifted with knowledge. الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. تمام? They said, وقال الذين أوتوا العلم ويلكم ثواب الله خير لمن آمن وعمل صالحا ولا يلقاها إلا الصابرون. They said, woe to you, shame on you, shame on you. It's a shame. How can you think that? How can you even think in that manner? How can you look at someone who's so distant from Allah and not feel sorry for them? How can you look at someone who's not connected to Allah and say they're lucky? How can you say that? When you see someone driving a Lambo, but that person is not a believer, that person is not on the path, that person is not helping and constructing and giving back, that person is selfish and broken and vacant and empty, you can't feel lucky, you can't feel luck for that individual. You feel a sense of pity sometimes. So here the people of knowledge, they say, how can you say that? How can you be attracted to this? And what does it mean about you when you're attracted to these things? That doesn't mean we are, amaterialistic. That doesn't mean we don't seek the world. But very simple, if you want to summarize the Muslim's attitude towards wealth, you hold it in your hand and not in your heart. Very simple. We hold wealth in our hand and not in our heart. The minute wealth enters the heart, it's no longer a resource, it's now a pleasure and a purpose. It's no longer a means, it's a goal. So for the Muslim, the wealth is just a mean. The means to pleasing Allah, to give Him back. And how can you ever do any good in this world if you don't have resources? You need resources. But they are that. They're just resources. Tamam? So what happens? They said, ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ. He said, if only you knew the reward of Allah. It is better for those who believe and do good. The one who believes and does good, not just believes, because belief is, someone can believe, but that belief is kind of sedentary in the background. But the one who believes, and that belief is translated into action, if that person is given a choice, they will always say the reward of Allah is better for me. If that person is given a choice between, okay, I'm going to give you a Ferrari as your paycheck, once your basic needs are covered. Your basic needs are covered. But I'm going to give you a Ferrari, or you have this, beautiful ride that you get in Jannah. The person that has belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always choose to defer the reward to Jannah. How can you not? You have it in this dunya, but this dunya is temporary. You have it with Allah, it is eternal. Even simple logic tells you, you don't want to experience something that is beautiful temporarily when you can experience it forever. And that's just not convenient thinking. That is a reality for the believer. That's not an scapegoat. That's not a way that we deal with our problems or the fact that we don't have anything in life and that we feel so purposeless and so... No, it's a reality. It's a reality of the believer. So they say here, the reward with Allah is far better. خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَلَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الصَّابِرُونَ. And none will attain it except those who are patient and steadfast. What is it? Jannah. None will attain the reward of Allah or Jannah, or this feeling itself, this satisfaction of knowing that the best of the best is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The story here is summarized very simply, but it's so powerful. What happens here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes for Qarun to be destroyed. فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. Remember how we talked about last class, in which we mentioned that people are going to be punished in a very similar nature to the crime they committed. Fir'aun built his palace and kingdom above the water, and is أَلَيْسَ لِي مُلْكُ مِصْرَ وَهَذِهِ الْأَنْهَارُ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِي أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ أَمْ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْ هَذَا الَّذِي هُوَ مَهِينٌ وَلَا يَكَادُ يُبِينُ. Right? Am I not better? Don't you see that I have built this palace upon water and the water is running after me? So Allah punished him by drowning him under that water. And Qarun built his palace above the ground and above, castles above the mountains, and he elevated himself and he put himself on this great horse and great, ride and entourage. So he really pushed himself forward. He made himself a star among the people. Everybody's looking up at him. Everybody's looking up towards him, idealizing him. Almost, making him, just taking away the human aspect and raising him in that pedestal, above that pedestal, putting him on a pedestal. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, the punishment is that he was caused to be swallowed down, swallowed by the ground, along with his home. And wallahi, my brothers, my sisters, you see this in this world. You see this in this world. You see so many people becoming so powerful. But towards the end of their lives, or the middle of their lives, they are reduced to nothing. Their power is taken away, their fame is taken away, their reputation is tarnished, and they become an icon of loss and failure. Whether those are people who were religiously respected, whether those are people who were respected for their ethics, respected for their wealth, respected for their decisiveness, they become turned because their intention was wrong, and their entire system that they've built was built for a convenient, selfish reason. Allah turns them and makes them into a lesson. And this is what happens to Qarun. He rises, but only to fall. And the greater that you rise, the greater the fall. And the harder the fall. And that sometimes can be one of the greatest punishments from Allah. To let someone transgress, and then suddenly they're reduced. And sometimes they wake up, and sometimes it's too late, and they never wake up. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us from those who become that or behave in that manner. Now what's amazing here is وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ يَقُولُونَ وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ لَوْلَا أَنْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا لَخَسَفَ بِنَا وَيْكَأَنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْكَافِرُونَ تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًّا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. What a beautiful two ayat. The same morning, وَأَصْبَحَ, so fast, the rhetoric changed, the attitudes of people changed. The same people that used to wish, oh, I wish I had what Qarun had. Oh, I wish I was in Qarun's position. Now what are they saying? وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ يَقُولُونَ وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ. Now they're all deep. Now they're all thinking deeply. Oh man, how Allah bestows wealth to whom He wills and takes it from whom He wills. Have you seen that? Have you seen someone who's like acting like a little kid? Yeah, I want that, I want to have fun, I want to YOLO. And then something really tragic happens, and the next day that person is wearing the kufi, and they're wearing the abba, and they're coming, subhanallah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Overnight transformation. Now they're like, man, life, they're real now all of a sudden. Alright, so they're saying how Allah has shown us that He can give, and He can take, and He can choose to. We wish to be in His position, but if we were in His position, we'd be dead. We're poor, but at least we're alive. So now they begin to value life, and they begin to value the things that they took for granted. The fact that they have comfort of mind, peace of mind, able to go home to bed, sleep with no guilt, no regrets. Some of those biggest, most powerful people who've gotten that power because of corruption and hurting so many people, they can't go to sleep properly. They have to take all kinds of medications and all kinds of therapies, and they spend half of their fortunes doing this and doing that. Right? We take so many of the basic things, basic commodities and gifts of life for granted. And Allah here is reminding us, look at that transition, look at that quick change. But any quick change is short-lived and quickly fades. And you see that with people. You see that with the children of Israel. You see that with even some of us in our own lives. We'll come across a point in our lives where we'll learn something really important, really powerful, and then we'll be like, okay, that's it, we're changed, I'm a changed person, I'll never do this again. Ya Allah, I'm done with that. I've really learned this time. Or even in difficult situations, we turn to Allah, Ya Allah, if you help me through this, I will never go back to that thing again. Do you know that attitude is really horrendous with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because when you say, I will never go back to that thing again, you're thinking that you have the strength, alone to be able to stay committed on the path. In reality, you don't. No human being has the strength alone to be on the path. The human who's going to truly be on the path is the one who breaks himself before Allah, submits himself in front of Allah and says, Ya Allah, without you, I can't do anything. Without you, I can't even be close. Without you, I can't get off of Fajr. Without you, I can't do anything. So that's why you come across some of the ulama, and wallahi, I remember when I was listening to one of the teachers who was saying the beautiful couplet, and while he was saying this, he was crying. You know, Allah, nowadays, subhanAllah, it's so difficult to actually be sitting in a halaqa and to have the halaqa touch you to a point where tears come down your eyes. We lack that, subhanAllah. We're so, our hearts are now so, just tarnished and hardened and all of those things that it's very difficult to be in a halaqa or to be in a situation that really, and we're so desensitized. We're used to watching all these people get shot and these videos and this and that and hurt here, blah, blah, blah. So people, it's so different now. The attitude, the minds of people have changed. But I remember one of the things that the Shaykh was saying, he said, I have found myself to be most complete when I was most broke in front of Allah. I found myself to be most whole when I was most broken from Allah. Right? And that's why sickness, things that really just break you, they have an instant, again, impact on you being able to reconnect with Him. Because sickness allows you to realize, man, I'm so weak. I'm really weak. And that's why you see people when they come closer to the end of their lives, or when they age, they begin to really reflect, man, I'm really weak. I took so many things for granted. When someone is in water and they're swimming and they're so close to losing their life, just one breath. Now they're able to realize, man, just all it takes is one breath. Can you imagine at any moment in our lives, just if you were just stop breathing, if your lung were to stop or your heart was to stop, that's it. We're so close, and we take so many things for granted. We're so close to loss, and we as human beings, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ وَفِي خُسْرٍ. Right? We're always in a state of loss, so close to it, except those who believe and do righteous deeds. And the way to come out of that and to emerge out of that is to be broken in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now listen to this carefully. Allah says, تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةِ. I want you to listen to this carefully, because we live in a time in which, this is the land of dreams, the land of opportunities. You can be anything you want. You can get as much wealth as you can and go and pursue. And, if you've ever sat in a lecture of someone who's really, really wealthy, and the attitude, that the way they speak, the attitude that they have, إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبِّي وَقَلِيلٌ مَا هُمْ, except the ones who have received the mercy of Allah, and they're very few. They will speak about people as though they're instruments on their journey towards profit. They're so discarded. Don't we do that? Some of you are like, oh no, people don't do that. No, they do. Have you seen big corporations pay 10 cents to kids in some part of the world for shoes that we wear, for shirts that we put on our bodies, right? Isn't that what happens? It's normal, and they're willing to, lay off tens of thousands of people, because there's going to be a better place in which there are less rights, less unions, less regulations, less money to pay out. Just think about the world that we live in today. Have you seen people hide, cures just to make more money, just to profit? Have you seen industries invest more on marketing a single drug than they've invested on researching new cures? What matters more? Is it about profit making, or is it about helping people? You got to ask yourselves that. And in your own money, in your own daily lives, in your own day-to-day accounting. حاسبوا قبل أن تحاسبوا حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا, right? In your day-to-day accounting, financial accounting, and just self-accounting, accounting yourself, holding yourself accountable. How do you make those decisions? Have you seen people that are saying, you know what? Listen, honey, I gotta live in Dubai, and you gotta stay in, this country with your family and with my kids, and I'm gonna be away from them for years, but it's going to be better in the long term because we're gonna make this much money. So they're willing to break the family for the sake of wealth. I'm just giving you examples. There's so many. So don't look at this story as an old, story that we can no longer relate. No, think about it from a practical point of view. Ask yourself, why does Allah place this story in the Quran, and what can I learn from it? Right? And don't just make this a matter. Sometimes Allah gives us the really extreme example because it's easy to think about, and it's easy to reflect about, and it's easy to point to be like, oh man, that's so bad. But that extreme example has many micro manifestations in each and every one of our lives. And we shouldn't just point to be like, oh, that's so bad. Ask yourself, I could be that. And maybe it's not I could be that, maybe I am that at this time, on some level, in some aspect of my life. And what can I do and what do I need to do? And how do I engage in self-reflection to make sure that I don't become that, or if I am that, to reverse that, to undo that, and to become better. That's the attitude of the believer. So Allah says, this eternal home, subhanAllah, what a beautiful name, the eternal home, Ad-Dar al-Akhirah. نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا. The hereafter is written, sealed, for those who don't wish to be elevated at the expense of others in this world. And they don't wish to gain so that they can cause corruption. Do you know some people have hidden agendas? You're like, oh man, I wish I can just wait until I have enough money. Watch what I'm going to do to that guy and this guy and that guy. Right? So wealth, power, they seek it with an intention to just get back at someone or hurt someone. And there are people who actually build their whole careers on causing other people to suffer and getting back at other people, right? So don't just stick to living in this world for the sake of upward mobility at the expense of others. Just think about social upward mobility. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get better and better and better, and I'm going to win. This attitude, uluwan. I want to be the best. I want to be the highest. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what it takes. I don't care who has to die or suffer in the process. I'm going to be number one. That's the first attitude. يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًا فِي الْأَرْضِ. And the second one is fasada, corruption. You know, I'm going to have to bribe a few people here and there. I'm going to have to cheat here and there just to get to a good position. And the worst kind of that is the one who does this with so-called a good intention. You know, when I finally have X, Y, and Z, I will be able to build a big masjid, and I'll be able to get a big, group of people that are coming to make dua for me. And then Allah will forgive everything that I've done. There are people who do that, right? I just imagine the اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوا أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم ثم تكونوا بعد قوم صالحين. Kill Yusuf, and then after that we'll repent and be righteous people. Yeah, it's fine. Or the people that tried to kill Saleh, kill him and then tell his family, we didn't see anything, and then after that we'll take care of repenting. We'll do that on our own time, on our own terms. Subhanallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then finishes the ayat or transitions into the next phase of the surah by saying, مَنْ جَاءَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ فَلَهُ خَيْرٌ مِنْهَا. Whoever comes up with a good deed, he will get better than it. Whatever good you do for Allah, Allah will always give you better. That's a rule. Listen to that carefully. Whatever good you do, Allah will always give you better. You teach someone Quran and you don't take a single penny for it. You give charity without anybody knowing about it. You invest, you help, you build without anybody knowing about it. It'll always find a way to come back for you. If not in this dunya, and most of the time it will come back in the dunya. But if Allah loves you and if you've done enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to really favor you in that manner, then Allah will give you and defer it to you in the hereafter. And sometimes Allah will give you a little bit of it in this dunya and then give you much, much more in the akhirah. But the idea is nothing will be wasted. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Right? جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا. جَزَاءً مِّن رَبِّكَ عَطَاءً حِسَابًا. For Jannah, it's جَزَاءً مِّن رَبِّكَ عَطَاءً حِسَابًا. It's a gift. Allah will give you without any account. But for Jahannam, جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا. وَمَنْ جَاءَ بِالسَّيِّئَةٍ فَلَا يُجْزَى الَّذِينَ عَمَلُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ إِلَّا مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And then in other ayat, فَلَا يُجْزَى إِلَّا مِثْلَهَا. So meaning Allah, the good you do, Allah will reward it with much, much, much more. Unbound. فَلَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونَ. There is no limit to the reward that Allah gives. But in terms of the punishment, look at the justice of Allah. Allah says the one who does bad, he will just become a victim of the bad that he did. The one who does bad, he will get rewarded in that same way. You get what you sow, basically. You reap what you sow. Each and every one of us invests. You have a canvas, you have a page, that's your life. You write, you choose what to do with it. And based on what you write and what you do, Allah will reward you, or you will be reduced and alienated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll bring the session to a halt. And inshallah, now we'll open up the wall or the door for any questions, if anyone has any, inshallah. Bismillah. Any questions? Yes, my sister.
Assalamu
Alaikum salam.
Thank you for the good khutbah yesterday. It was very informative, and today's
May Allah bless you, my sister.
In you have all this background. That expands the meaning and makes it much more full. Where is it all from hadith, or how would I be able to get so much out of it without knowing this background?
Right. So you have to understand that, number one, the Quran is an ocean. It's a sea, and you will extract from it based on what you know. You will extract from it based on your own experiences. The psychologist will read the Quran and extract a lot of psychology lessons. The philosopher will read the Quran and extract a lot of philosophical lessons. The engineer will read the Quran and extract, again, very lessons that are respectively, again, going to be meaningful to that individual. So, in order to really extract from the Quran, what you need to do is you need to, number one, you need to have an understanding of the hadith, you need to have an understanding of the context, you need to have an understanding of the tafsir itself. So the science of tafsir, part of it looks at the cause of revelation. What caused these ayat to be revealed? How did the companions understand it? How did they implement it? What lessons did they learn from it? What did the students of the companions and the authority on the Quran, I mean, there were people that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you want to know about the Quran, you go ask him. So how did they look at it, and what did they take from it, and how did they send that to the students and their students, and so on? So this whole science is the science of tafsir, and that's what we're trying to do, just trying to open up the doors for that in these discussions, right? And I hope that, inshallah, for those of you who are interested in learning more and in accumulating a wealth of knowledge when it comes to tafsir, is go to the Quran Journey website, quranjourney.tv, and just follow the classes. I mean, you know, all the classes for the most part are video recorded in high definition. There's the audio and there are the notes for the most part. I mean, we're still catching up with some of those notes, but they're there for, you know, your own information. And I want to just show you an example. For example, for those of you who were here for the khutbah yesterday, these are 30 pages of notes. These are 30 pages of notes for Surah Al-Shams. For Surah Al-Shams. So we look at the oaths. What are the oaths for? We compare the oaths to the other parts of the surah. We look at the sun. Why is Allah mentioning the sun? We look at the duha. We look at the moon. What does the modern science say about it? We look at, for example, the earth. And then we look at the nafs. The nafs. What is the nafs? What does Allah say about the nafs? And these are all, again, beautiful, really beautiful, things that can really expand your knowledge and get you to look at yourself and understand the Quran in a much, much better way. So we look at the types of nafs. So basically the khutbah that was mentioned yesterday, this is the expansion to that. So all of the stuff that was mentioned, written out, and much more detail, many more details are basically laid out here, including all the sources as well, right? And then we look at the people of Thamud. Why does Allah mention them? Why does Allah talk about them? And here's the full story with all the information. And these are the ayat and the translations, as well, again, as some of the context that was done. And then we're opening with Surah Al-Teen, and that's basically the lesson for tomorrow's class, which is the Quran Journey class at McMaster University, right? So alhamdulillah, we have, right now we have around 700 to 1,000 students that are enrolled, and we're continuously trying to make the curriculum better. And inshallah, we're going towards the direction of making it completely non-for-profit. Once we break even with the costs and just the program pays for itself, it'll be completely non-for-profit, inshallah. So I'm not interested in taking this and turning into a profit venture. But the idea here is to leave this legacy behind and to have this, again, Quran fully written out with these, again, authentic, for the most part, to the best of our ability. May Allah forgive us for our shortcomings, but authentic, again, ways of looking and dealing with the Quran, inshallah.
So do you, say right there, it says, some have suggested that the figs and olives here refer to the actual figs and olives. So do you have this, in university you have a source and a
Yeah, so there are 3 levels to Quran Journey. There's the basic level, which the students have access to the basic notes. Those are the ones who are not interested. They're just interested in taking some meaningful lessons and implementing it in their lives. Then there's basically the student of knowledge and the scholarly level. Those who are interested in the student of knowledge or the scholarly levels, they would basically get the same set of notes with all the references and the sourcing and the text. Sometimes when you put the sourcing and the references in the basic notes, people just get turned off, that's too much information, I can't take it. So it's very simple and plain. But those who want the basic, so instead of saying, some people say that the figs and the olives could actually refer to the actual figs and the olives, it would say some people like Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, as mentioned in Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari, etc., page 356, say da 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 da. So that would be for those of you who are interested. We've taken into consideration all of these things, and we've tried to design a model that works best for everybody, inshallah. So if anybody is interested, just go to the website, shoot a message if you're interested in the scholarly notes as well, inshallah. Any other questions, inshallah? I think was that Maghrib that just came in? طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.